David, you disappointed family business is being aired in
Brooklyn Beckham has finally broken his silence, and what he's accusing his own parents of has left fans genuinely stunned.
David, do you have a message for Brooklyn this morning?
6 Instagram stories taking the Beckham family feud scorched.
After years of staying quiet, avoiding interviews, and letting rumors swirl, Brooklyn has now come forward with a detailed post that many are calling a line in the sand. And this wasn't a vague message or a cryptic quote, it was specific, emotional, and impossible to ignore. In it, Brooklyn alleges a long history of pressure, control, and manipulation, claiming that even his own wedding day became a source of tension rather than celebration. From behind-the-scenes conflicts over the dress to claims that his first dance was allegedly hijacked, he paints a picture of a moment that was supposed to be joyful, but instead deeply uncomfortable. And what's made this situation even more explosive is that Brooklyn makes it clear that this isn't about reconciliation. So what really happened behind closed doors? Why is he speaking up now? And how deep does this family rift actually go? Let's break down the post and the claims that have completely changed how fans are viewing the Beckham family.
Attempted to force him into signing over the rights to his own name so they could control his public image. Quote, "Brand Beckham comes first. Family love is decided by how much you post on social media or how quickly you drop everything to show up and pose for a family photo op."
So here's how this latest chapter in the Beckham family feud actually began. You see, after months of speculation, awkward public absences, and fans sensing a growing distance inside the Beckham family, Brooklyn Beckham finally broke his silence. On January 19th, the 26-year-old took to his IG stories to absolutely destroy his parents. In a series of blunt, emotionally charged messages, Brooklyn opened by explaining why he had stayed quiet for so long. He said he deliberately chose silence, trying to keep family matters private, even as rumors swirled and narratives formed without him. In a lengthy post, Brooklyn wrote, "I have been silent for years and made every effort to keep these matters private. Unfortunately, my parents and their team have continued to go to the press, leaving me with no choice but to speak for myself and tell the truth about only some of the lies that have been printed." Now, according to Brooklyn, his silence was slowly turned against him. He claimed that while he stayed quiet, his parents were basically lying to the world, thus shaping the story from their side only. And that, he says, left him with no option but to finally speak for himself. In his own words, Brooklyn said he was done allowing lies to circulate unchecked. And then he made something very clear right from the start. This wasn't about reconciliation.
Slapped his parents with a legal letter requesting any attempt at reconciliation be done through a third party. Though now he says he has no plans of making things right.
Every father wants to be loving to their children. When you are a parent, it changes everything for.
Brooklyn openly stated that he is not trying to fix the relationship or make peace publicly. Instead, he framed this as the first time he was standing up for himself, accusing his parents of carefully curating a public image through staged family moments, polished social media posts, and what he described as a performative version of unity. But just when it seemed like this was a story about emotional distance and public image, Brooklyn dropped a claim that instantly escalated everything. Among his posts, he alleged that his parents attempted to pressure him into signing away the rights to his own name, and that once he refused, he says he was never treated the same again. And that single accusation is what turned a family rift into a full-blown public fracture.
This is a nuclear bomb that's going off. It shows just how toxic fame can be.
And this is where the story really gets personal for Brooklyn, because for years, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Beckham family fallout has always been where it actually began. Many rumors circulated that the beef between Brooklyn and his parents began on his wedding day. But according to Brooklyn, the damage started long before Nicola ever walked down the aisle. Brooklyn claims that tensions were already simmering when his mother, Victoria Beckham, abruptly backed out of designing Nicola's wedding dress, despite Nicola being openly excited to wear it. He says the decision came at the very last minute, forcing Nicola into a frantic search for a replacement gown just weeks before the wedding. And in Brooklyn's words, that moment wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a warning sign. But as it turns out, that wedding dress chaos was nothing compared to what happened next. That was only the beginning. According to Brooklyn, his parents again repeatedly pressured and even attempted to bribe him once again into signing away the rights to his own name. When he refused, he claims the relationship fundamentally changed.
For our big day, my parents repeatedly pressured and attempted to bribe me into signing away the rights to my name, which would have affected me, my wife, and our future children. They were adamant on me signing before my wedding date because then the terms of the deal would have been initiated. My holdout affected the payday, and they have never treated me.
Now turns out this is why Brooklyn and Nicola dropped their surname and nowadays go by Peltz, a move that suddenly carries far more meaning than fans initially realized. And then came the moment that Brooklyn says crossed a line he can't forget. During the wedding reception, his first dance with Nicola, carefully planned weeks in advance, to a romantic love song, never happened the way it was supposed to. Instead, Brooklyn says Mark Anthony called him to the stage where his mother was waiting. What followed was a dance Brooklyn describes as very inappropriate.
A surname known the world over, the Beckhams have built their brand on a concoction of career successes and picture-perfect family ideals. But now that idyllic image has been not just cracked.
In front of nearly 500 guests, Brooklyn says he felt blindsided, uncomfortable, and humiliated watching what should have been a once-in-a-lifetime moment with his wife get taken over in real time. It's also why, in August 2025, Brooklyn and Nicola quietly chose to renew their vows, not as a spectacle, but as a reset, a chance to replace memories of anxiety and embarrassment with ones rooted in peace and joy. And the absence of David and Victoria Beckham from that ceremony, Brooklyn says that too speaks for itself.
The rumor mill intensified recently after Brooklyn and Nicola renewed their wedding vows without his parents present. They were then absent from David's 50th birthday party and knighthood celebrations. Brooklyn saying, "For my entire life, my parents have controlled narratives in the press about our family. My family values public promotion and endorsements above all else. Brand Beckham comes first. I do not want to reconcile with my family. I'm not being controlled. I'm standing up for myself for the first time in my life."
But as dramatic as the wedding fallout sounded, that was nothing compared to the drama that Brooklyn had with his dad. According to Brooklyn, he flew into London for David's birthday, but instead of reconnecting privately, he claims he and Nicola were left waiting for an entire week, unable to see David unless it was at the massive birthday party itself, surrounded by hundreds of guests, cameras, and press. Brooklyn says he repeatedly asked to meet one-on-one. The answer, he claims, was a huge no. When a meeting was finally offered, it came with a condition that stunned him. Nicola was not invited. Brooklyn described that moment as a slap in the face, not just as a husband, but as someone who felt forced to choose between his wife and his family.
She's the best, and I'm so happy.
The 26-year-old rattles off his grievances with his mom and dad over their treatment of his wife in a nearly 900-word takedown. The couple hasn't been in a good place with the soccer superstar and Spice Girl Victoria since their wedding in 2022, the details of which Brooklyn unleashes in his digital diary.
And the family drama didn't stop there. Brooklyn alleged that when the Beckham family later traveled to Los Angeles, they refused to see him at all. But what shocked many most of all was Brooklyn's claim that the rift extended beyond his parents. He accused David and Victoria of orchestrating private and public attacks against him, messages he says were deliberately funneled to the press. And according to Brooklyn, his brothers Romeo and Cruz were pulled into the conflict as well. They allegedly had orders to criticize Brooklyn publicly on social media before eventually blocking him entirely last summer. Brooklyn also directly addressed one of the most persistent narratives surrounding the feud, that Nicola controls him.
Brooklyn coming to wife Nicola Peltz's defense online, writing to his 16.5 million followers, "The narrative that my wife controls me is completely backwards. I have been controlled by my parents."
He didn't just deny it, he flipped it. Brooklyn said the story was completely backwards, explaining that he felt controlled by his parents for most of his life. He revealed that he grew up battling intense anxiety. Anxiety, he says, disappeared only after stepping away from his family. For the first time, Brooklyn described feeling calm, grounded, at peace, and he ended his statement with a message that felt less like retaliation and more like closure. "My wife wife and I do not want a life shaped by image, press, or manipulation. All we want is peace, privacy, and happiness for us and our future family. Now, people's reactions online have been wild, with many people being sympathetic to Brooklyn and all his parents have put him through. I think it will take a long time for the public to accept that the parents are toxic because of all the work the PR team has done so far to make sure they look like the perfect family. Selling your son out because of brand is evil, Victoria and David. Media is not your family. Parents trying to control son, especially mom. Mom's jealous of son's wife and son's relationship with wife. Age-old story. Good for Brooklyn standing up to them. I'm sure they deserve it. However, some people were not on Brooklyn's side at all. Oh, please. Without his last name, his wife wouldn't have given him a second glance. This is so bizarre. If it's true, geez, young man, don't ever air your dirty laundry in public. Talk to your parents and get family counseling. Good way to ruin your reputation.
Today, David spoke for the first time since his son's rant, talking on CNBC's Squawk Box about social media and mental health.
Children are allowed to make mistakes. That's how they learn. So that's what I try to teach my kids. But you have to sometimes let them make those mistakes.
In the end, Brooklyn and Nicola say they wanted something simple, a chance to rewrite their wedding memories with joy instead of tension. But with emotions still raw and lines clearly drawn, reconciliation doesn't seem close. What Brooklyn has revealed pulls back the curtain on a family the world has spent decades idealizing. Behind the polished photos and carefully curated public image is a complicated dynamic shaped by fame, control, loyalty, and deeply personal boundaries. Speaking out came at a cost, but for Brooklyn, it also appears to have brought clarity. He's chosen peace over performance, privacy over image, and a life that feels authentic to him, even if it means walking away from the family narrative the public expects. And that's what makes this story so uncomfortable and so fascinating, because when a family as famous as the Beckhams fractures this publicly, it raises a bigger question. Is this a son finally standing up for himself, or a family struggling to let go of control in the spotlight? Let me know what you think. Do you believe Brooklyn's version of events, or do you think there's more happening behind the scenes? Let me know your opinions in the comments. Till next time, bye.